Welcome everybody. Mr. Schadrack Dusabe, UN Women Deputy Representative in Ethiopia. Dr. Aboubakar Kampo, UNICEF Ethiopia Country Representative. Her Excellency Dr Ergogie Tesfaye, Minister, Ministry of Women and Social Affairs. Distinguished guests, it is truly a pleasure and an honor to introduce this 15th anniversary workshop of the Children, Youth and Women Research and Practice Forum. Allow me to say a few words about how the forum was set up and where we're at now. Right, so the forum was started in 2010 in September, and I'm going to say a little bit about the activities, the newsletters, the annual summaries and the presentations to date, and give you a little bit of a sense of the topics and presenters. So in 2010, this forum was born after a workshop that Young Lives held to discuss the topic of orphans and vulnerable children. And at that workshop, Dr. Ananya Masu is here. In the discussion, he said, well, this will be just another study that's going to be shelved and it will be forgotten about. Why don't we have a meeting, a regular meeting where research findings can be presented, discussed, where inputs for policymakers can be distilled so that it becomes something useful. And that is when the idea of at that time it was called the Child Research and Practice Forum, was born. And from UNICEF, Martha Kabur, who is here, and Roger Pearson suggested, well, let's have the meetings at UNICEF. We can have a monthly meeting there. So we had a steering committee with African Child Policy Forum, and Hala Shet is here, and Plan, Concern, the Forum for Sustainable Children's Empowerment, Norwegian Church Aid, Save the Children Fund, the consortium of NGOs, CHADIT, represented here by Ananya, UNICEF and Young Lives. And the first presentation actually happened on the 24th of September 2010 and was held at UNICEF. After a while, we realized that it was very difficult for our colleagues from the ministries to come and attend these sessions regularly. And so it was suggested that the meeting should be held monthly at the Ministry of Women. So from 2012 onwards, from March, it became held at the Ministry. And then many people didn't attend the meetings but wanted to hear about the presentations. So the idea came, why don't we have a newsletter? And the first newsletter, there have been 32. The first one was in March 2011. And we've had 32 newsletters so far, and there are some examples. You can take some from the table over there. Now, at the end of the year, there have been many presentations, and a lot of very interesting debate, dialogue happened at these meetings. And so the idea came about to have annual summary booklets that bring together all the presentations during that year. And so since this started in 2011, there have been 13 annual booklets, and since 2017 we've had the honor of having a forward by the Minister of the Ministry of Women and Children, now the Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs, and a preface by the UNICEF Representative. All these are available, the newsletters and the annual summaries, on the website. Now, what kind of presentations have happened? So here you see a graph of the 170 presentations. In fact, there have been 173. The first three are not in this graph. And you can see that the biggest topic was child protection with 54, followed by gender, adolescence and youth with 30, and then education, 25, early marriage and female genital mutilation, health, mobility and migration, poverty and inequality, employment, and so forth. And which organizations were presenting these? So you can see that we had a lot from Young Lives. In fact, when somebody who said they would present couldn't at the last minute, we would always add a Young Lives presentation. And you can see Addis Ababa University, 16, and then UNICEF Ethiopia, and then Gage, and then a lot of universities abroad, and these included Amsterdam, Bristol, Columbia, Gothenburg, Oxford, Southampton, Sussex, Tufts, and then Ethiopian universities. We had Debre Birhan, the civil service, Haramaya, Jimma, Kotobe, Madawalabu, and World universities. And you can see the various international organizations, Save the Children, research networks, population council, and so forth. So there's been a very wide buy-in interest from many organizations to hold these. And so I'll conclude by suggesting you visit the website and find out about a lot of these presentations. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Your Excellency, Minister of Women and Social Affairs, Dr. Ergogie Tesfaye, Excellency Dr. Aboubakar Kampo, UNICEF Country Representative to Ethiopia, Excellencies, Honorable, here present representing different government institutions and development partners, colleagues from the UN system, good morning once again. Standing here, I am so delighted to be here this morning with such self-explanatory audience because of the importance of today's discussions. Today, celebration of the 15th anniversary of the Children, Youth and Women Research in Practice Forum. It marks a very significant and momentous occasion for youth, for children, and for women. Today, we celebrate not only the research products as the numbers have been presented by the moderator and the presenter, but we are also celebrating the outcomes of this research in influencing and especially for the betterment of the lives of children, of the young people and women in Ethiopia. This forum is highly invaluable in fostering close learning through the dissemination of research products and facilitating meaningful dialogue among researchers, policymakers, practitioners, and all of you key stakeholders. It is a golden rule that policies have to be evidence-based. Unfortunately, it is not all the thematic areas that are blessed to have such a resourceful platform that we are celebrating today. The decision to come up with Children, Youth and Women Research in Practice Forum 15 years ago was very thoughtful. However, you would all agree with me that the celebrations that we are having today wouldn't be making sense, wouldn't have been the great political will and policy level support. And to this effect, allow me to sincerely express appreciation to the leadership provided by the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs to this effect. The forum has been sustained through the collaborative efforts of numerous stakeholders, majority of them being represented here and others who are not here. Under the leadership of the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs, Young Lives Ethiopia, UNICEF, civil society organizations, and UNWOMEN that I'm representing here today, this is one of the products and achievements that we should all take pride of. The workshop that we are having today will bring together experts in various fields to cover a wide range of themes, including gender issues that have been affecting the lives of children, of youth, and women, mothers themselves. The topics that have been selected for the papers that are being presented today, and even a wide range of all the 170 research papers that have been presented, and again, thanking the organizers and the pioneers for making it an open source, whereby they are all available on the website and easily accessible to the general public of users. As UNWOMEN, and I truly believe that it is the same for all other stakeholders, I must acquiesce that I was not using this rich and resourceful platform. But from today onwards, this platform, the website open source of the 170 research papers that have been posted, is going to be our primary reference for our strategic planning, starting with our 5-year strategic plan that we will soon be developing from the second half of this year. So this resource will be the very primary resource in terms of informing the strategic priorities going forward from 2026 up to 2030. This diverse expertise will provide practical insights and foster a deeper understanding of the multifaceted challenges that women, children, and young people have been facing in Ethiopia, so that we all together contribute to solving, to addressing adequately and sustainably all these challenges. In conclusion, I can only wish all of you, all of us, happy 15th anniversary and very fruitful deliberations. I thank you very much.
Good morning, salam. No energy in this room, Your Excellency, Dr. Ergogie Tesfaye, my dear sister, the Minister of Women and Social Affairs, my younger brother Schadrack, Deputy Representative for UNWOMEN, Dr. Alula Pankhurst, the chair of this forum, but also from Young Lives, senior government officials and development partners, researchers, distinguished guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. It is a pleasure for me to be here today to this 15th anniversary of this forum. Please allow me to not say the full name. It's a long name, but you know what we're talking about this morning. It is a milestone to have lived and survived 15 years in really trying to make sure that research, science is valued, and that's what all the forum is all about. Firstly, let me thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Ergogie, and the Minister of Women and Social Affairs for maintaining the momentum of the forum and facilitating, those meetings for researchers to come together and really debate on the different research agendas to improve the life of women and children and young people in Ethiopia. It is commendable. This morning I really had trouble finding words in these trying times. The elephant in the room is, the politics trying to suppress science and research, or politically influencing what needs to be said, which words can be used, and what's defined the future of the nations. It makes it even more important to value forums like this, where research can actually be discussed so that they are truly based on evidence, inform the policies and the actions countries which countries should be taking to improve the life of their citizens. I was last week in New York, and we were challenged, by the politics of what can be represented in research documents, how a strategy should be formed, and how our policy should be basically defined. These are trying times for science. I think we should not be taking it for granted that 15 years ago, people came together to basically create this particular forum so that we can debate on research paper, so that they influence the policies, as I mentioned before, and determine the outcomes of how we will, all of us, be serving our communities, our neighbors, our citizens, to make their life better. It is extremely important that a research paper or research, any kind of research, does not remain just as a research document. If a research is not translated into actions, whether positively or negatively, and I say it intentionally, sometimes it could be negatively, but from negative things we can learn lessons to improve as well. If we're not translating those research papers into actions, if we don't practice them, the only thing that we have done is to waste money, and the research will only remain a very good idea, which will not serve anybody. And that's not the purpose why we are all basically doing research. In particular, and I repeat it again, in particular in these challenging times where science is put under pressure to be denied or disregarded, we need to make sure that whatever we are researching, whatever the conclusion of a research paper is, gets into practice, to not give way to science deniers, arguments to combat what is actually reality and facts with their own interpretations of their way of thinking to determine policies and strategies. I would like to thank you, Dr. Alula Pankhurst, and Young Lives for their tireless advocacy in promoting evidence evidence-based approaches, which has significantly contributed to enhancing programs, policies, and strategies aiming at improving the lives of women, young adults, and children, not just in Ethiopia, but across the continent and around the world. As I mentioned before, the generations of evidence-based science and research should never be seen as an end goal, nor as a useless task. Our life should be dictated by evidence and facts, and so do our strategies and policies. The forum serves as a critical role not only in facilitating communications of key findings, but also in creating a platform where practitioners, researchers, and policymakers converge, come together, and discuss transparently without any threat or fear of wrongdoing. This is academics. We're trying to find the best solutions for our people. As we approach the culminations of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2020 and 2030 and align national priorities outlined in the 10 years perspective plan, it is imperative that we closely monitor the progress of our targets. This will enable us to take timely corrective actions and to improve the well-being of our children and women, thus, in the larger sense, citizens of this country. I would like to encourage all of you, firstly, to employ or to use a co-design approach where people come together, co-create, co-research, and finally conclude together what would be the best way of moving the agenda forward. Secondly, it is appropriate for us also to say that we should be implementing a targeted outreach approach. We don't have to generalize everything, but I think research should be helping us of targeting our interventions. Thirdly, we need to diversify the disseminations of our products. The forum is great, the website is great, but our younger generations are more inclined to go on TikTok than going on any of the websites. How can we use those social media platforms to basically spread, the positive research which we all are doing? Let us seize this opportunity to reinforce our dedication to translate evidence to actions and to practice. Let us seize this opportunity to reiterate that science and research matters. Evidence-based information matters and should be determining our strategies and our policies. UNICEF remains committed to supporting the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs and the Forum in improving the lives of children and youth, and we will not be able to do so without science and research. And therefore, we will be standing by you and all researchers and all organizations who are contributing, to keeping this forum alive. And with that, science, strategies, policy development for a betterment of our children. Thank you very much.
Ndamın addaraችሁ. Good morning to you all. Dear my brother, Dr. Aboubakar Kampo, UNICEF Representative in Ethiopia, and my dear brothers, Schadrack, UN Women Deputy Representative in Ethiopia, and Dr. Alula Pankhurst, Chair of this forum, and distinguished researchers from the academia and other organizations, distinguished guests, organizers of this workshop, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very much delighted to be here today, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this 15th anniversary of workshop of Children, Youth, and Women Research and Practice Annual Forum, an initiative that has played a crucial role in advancing research-informed policy making and program implementation as well. So I just would love to say happy anniversary to all of us. A lot has been said, very important points by my brothers, but if I repeat, it is just to give more emphasis and to hammer the issue as well. Ministry of Women and Social Affairs has been hosting this forum for the past 15 years, and we are delighted to do so. The forum was first established, as it has been presented by Dr. Alula, in September 2010 as the Child Research and Practice Forum to provide a platform for presenting and discussing research and practice related to children's issues. Recognizing the need to expand its scope, it was also renamed in August 2023 to include youth, women, and people with disability as well, in ensuring a broader impact in the life of people here in Ethiopia. The forum initiative originated from a Young Lives workshop, which has been led by Dr. Alula, that presented research findings on orphans and vulnerable children. This highlighted the importance of evidence-based discussions in shaping policies and interventions to improve the life of children and youth, leading to the first meeting at UNICEF, which has remained a steadfast partner in supporting the forum for the past 15 years. As it's been said earlier, evidence-based researches are very important to design evidence-based interventions as well. Unless otherwise, we cannot make sure that our people are benefiting from our interventions. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, research and evidence play a vital role in shaping effective policies, strategies, and interventions aimed at addressing the challenges faced by our people. By providing reliable data and insights, research helps policymakers and decision makers, practitioners, and also that respond to real needs, allocate also resources efficiently, and measure the impact of the interventions that we are implementing on the ground. Therefore, the forum serves as an important platform for bridging the gap between research and action, ensuring that decisions are informed by empirical evidence rather than assumptions. Through continued dialogue and collaboration among researchers, government agencies, and development partners, the Forum fosters a culture of evidence-based policymaking, ultimately contributing to more sustainable and impactful solutions. In this regard, the Forum has given an opportunity for researchers at Ethiopian universities as well as visiting researchers to present their works for discussion and debate. The Forum has also enabled international organizations and NGOs to present their collaborative work, including ongoing projects and programs evaluations as well. Over the years, a total of, I have just get to learn that over 173 presentations have been made at the Forum on a wide range of themes, including children protection or child protection, early marriage, and FGM, gender equality, adolescents and youth issues, mobility and migration, poverty and inequality, health, education, and family lives as well. Consequently, the discussions and debates held over the years at the Forum provided useful inputs for decision makers in shaping a large number of policy related to women and other social groups as well. And it also contributed to the National Action Plan on the elimination of the worst form of child labor in Ethiopia. In addition to that, the National Action Plan on sexual abuse and exploitation of children and the National Strategy on harmful traditional practices and the National Social Protection Policy and the Youth Development and Change Strategies are the results of this forum. Furthermore, the Forum has been instrumental for presentation and discussions, as I have said earlier, of sectoral plans and strategies. I remember there was a discussion and debate during the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs, the former Ministry of Women, Children and Youth, preparing the 10 years development plan. Really, this forum helped us a lot to get very important inputs accordingly. And the National Strategy for Newborn and Child Survival, the National Adolescent and Youth Reproductive Health Strategy, and the National Nutrition Program, and the education sector, the National Girls Education Policy, the National Policy Framework of Early Child Care and Education, and the National Technical and Vocational Education and Training Strategy are also the results of this forum. I'm just mentioning these all things deliberately because we have done a lot together really to bring impactful and meaningful contribution in the policy making and all. This 15th anniversary workshop is centered on the theme Protection and Empowerment of Children, Youth and Women. This theme reflects the Forum's long-standing commitment to fostering evidence-based discussion and interventions that enhance the well-being and empowerment of vulnerable groups. In addition, it emphasizes the critical role of research, policy, and practice in creating sustainable solutions that protect and empower children, youth, and women while ensuring their active participation in social and economic development as well. I'm very much confident that the forum will continue delivering impact and be further strengthened through ongoing collaborations with national and international partners, expanding its reach to include more diverse stakeholders, deepening engagement with policymakers and practitioners, integrating innovative research to address emerging challenges. Since we are living in an uncertain world, so we have to make sure that we are catching up also these uncertainties and changes in the world. By fostering evidence-based discussions, strategic partnerships, and data-driven policy making, the forum will play an even greater role in shaping sustainable solutions that protect and empower all our people. And finally, I just would like to express my sincere gratitude to the forum, and especially Young Lives, UNICEF Ethiopia, UNWOMEN Ethiopia, and the UK's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office for their contribution and the support for their unwavering and commitment and support that contributed a lot in addressing the challenge to impact many lives meaningfully and positively. Please a round of applause for these all partners. And I also would love to thank especially Dr. Alula Pankhurst for his leadership. So please a round of applause for him. I also would like to thank the organizers of this forum and this conference. I wish you all a productive and look forward to the insightful recommendations that will emerge from our discussion. So I just would love to take this opportunity to reaffirm the commitment of Ministry of Women and Social Affairs in the journey of this forum. With that, I hereby declare this workshop is officially opened. Thank you very much.
And in terms of analysis, we used standard methods of data analysis in poverty analysis, the headcount index, the intensity, and the adjusted headcount ratio, which accounts both the incidence and the incentive aspects. So having this introduction about what the study is and the methods, I pass to the results. So the threshold to define what an individual is considered to be impoverished or not is we took the approach that individuals or children are considered to be deprived if they are deprived in at least half of the dimensions.
As I already mentioned, GATE is a 10 years longitudinal research program, and we have been working in 6 countries, Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, Ethiopia, Nepal, and Bangladesh. And globally, GATE follows about 20,000 adolescent girls and boys, which is the largest cohort of longitudinal study at present in the global south. In Ethiopia, as I already mentioned, we conducted the research particularly in Oromia and Amhara. The main GATE research also included Afar Zone 5, the Toa City Administration.
This study has already been disseminated, and published reports are available on the website NOAEthiopian.org. You can find this report. What I'm presenting here now is just an extract and just key issues from the findings. The project was, as mentioned earlier, it was implemented by the Network of Ethiopian Women Association in collaboration with Oxfam and the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs. And the project was funded by the European Union. So the objective of the study was to generate comprehensive evidence on women's status and priorities on an array of dimensions: economic, education, health, sexual and gender-based violence, psychological, political and civic issues, peace and security, and access to justice. About 9 thematic areas were covered.
As a child, put it as a basic human right for children. From the investment side, since 1980s, it's been theorized and also empirically proven that investing on the education of children, it has societal gains, economic development, and overall improvements in the prospects of everyone. So with that, conflicts have adverse effects on education, overall well-being, and so many other facilities that are basic for the human capital development. In this aspect, our study basically tries to measure or evaluate the impact of the North Ethiopian War on the educational achievement of children, both using the quantitative and qualitative or mixed research approach. The objectives are 3. One is to measure the impact on educational achievement. The second one is using the qualitative methodology or qualitative data. We want to quote or...
So we've got a very interesting evidence from birth right through to adulthood. I'm going to present just 4 key messages. The first is that it's the children from the poorest households, and particularly in gender terms, adolescent girls, who are the most impacted by climate shocks. Secondly, there are very important and significant longer-term impacts of what happens in early childhood. And then the good news is that these shocks are not irreversible, and social protection can play a key role. So when there are extreme weather problems, particularly during early childhood, this has an unequal impact, and it's the poorest and the most marginalized who suffer most. And we found this in all 4 Young Life countries, in Ethiopia, in India, in Vietnam, and in Peru. And climate shocks intersect with gender, and then adolescent girls are particularly disadvantaged. So in Ethiopia, we found that 81% of the children in the poorest households had been impacted by at least one weather shock, compared to only 22% in the richer households. And you see the percentages in the other countries. And of course, poorer households are less resilient to financial hardships, and crop failures reduces children's time in school, particularly in poorer households. And girls and adolescent women experience additional burdens of childcare and also domestic work, collecting water and so forth. So you see the quote of a 15-year-old girl from rural Ethiopia saying they used to go to school without eating anything, could not follow lessons properly due to hunger, and this contributed to dropout of my sister and myself. Now, these effects have longer-term implications. Vulnerable households struggle to maintain nutritious diets, and these have long-term implications for children's development. And this happened across all 4 countries. It's the poorest in rural areas and amongst minority groups who suffer most. And in Ethiopia, the children who had been stunted in early childhood suffer more from infections and perform less well in basic texts of vocabulary and maths. And it's really important that even before becoming pregnant, adolescent girls, it has a negative impact on their children, the children they give birth to, in terms of their height from infancy through to adolescence. So we found that children who had been born during the 1983-85 famine were shorter in height and had less schooling than their peers. So you see the longer term effects of this. Now, the good news, that the effects are not irreversible. We've been able to show that children beyond the first 1,000 days, it had been believed that if children were malnourished during the first 1,000 days, that was the end of them. They would not be able to recover. Well, by following the children in all 4 countries, we found this catch-up growth phenomenon. And this also was evident in the tests, in the school tests. And what's very important is we were able to show that social protection programs, in this case the Productive Safety Net program, have a very important evidence, a very important impact on mitigating and even reversing the effects of early childhood stunting. So they have longer-term memory and implicit learning skills and benefit those who were most disadvantaged. So the effects are even stronger for those who were disadvantaged in early childhood. So finally, what does this mean in policy terms? So unless there is targeted action, climate effects are likely to increase the disadvantages. And that means it's really important to adapt and expand social protection programs so that they become more shock responsive, targeting the more disadvantaged households in disaster-prone regions, including acute nutritional deficits caused by climate shocks. So to some extent, this is already happening with the targeting, but it needs to be strengthened. And this can be linked to early climate warning systems and climate risk monitoring to try and prevent this happening before it becomes a significant risk. And this means prioritizing safety nets for vulnerable adolescent girls and young women, particularly pregnant teenagers before they have their children, and young mothers, to safeguard their own health and the well-being of their unborn children. And this means designing social protection programs for both the direct and indirect benefits of children, including skill development and their ability to learn. Really key is school feeding programs. And this has immense benefits and is important in pre-primary as well as primary school and secondary, especially in disaster-prone areas. And finally, it's really important to build the evidence base on how climate-related shocks, nutrition and skills and learning are interconnected. Thank you very much.
I'm a member of the Global Coalition to End Child Poverty, and then we did a global research showing which are the countries that have made significant breakthrough in reducing child poverty, and we did why were they able to do such a miraculous work in terms of reducing it. One of the key issues in the context of Africa was political stability. When we don't have political stability, when we don't have incremental development of children and incremental access to services. So that's, I think, a very critical issue that we need to take into account. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
My question is for all presenters. Thank you, presenter, for your wonderful presentation. My question is how you assure the data quality, the risk mitigation. You have conducted a survey, a research in conflict-affected areas in different situations. So how you verify the data?
It was a good research. Of course, good to hear about the social advocacy for social protection access, but it says like it should be, the targeting should be strengthened. What do you really mean by that? Because safety net, both urban and rural, targets more women than men, more vulnerable people. So do you mean the targeting nationwide in terms of safety net coverage or the existing system coverage? Just to clarify that one.
I know the title is Children, Youth, Women, Research and Practice. And having come from a program background a long time ago, I would have expected that there would have been some presentations on practice to demonstrate this linkage between research and practice, because we know that knowledge management process, knowledge utilization is as important as knowledge creation. And I would have expected that there would have been some presentations on the practice part, so that we understand how we can closely link not only on policy implications, but also the operationalizations of the research work itself. It's just a comment I would like to make. Thank you very much.
I will start from the questions raised in the morning. Yeah, I didn't have much time to explain the situation, and it is right that women are more efficient, effective, and knowledgeable than usually men in allocating resources in households. So, but the issue with deprivation is that it goes with resources. So that finding even came out even in the qualitative analysis that gender roles and differential in opportunities between men and women is one of the sources of deprivation of children. So the fact that children living in women-headed households are more deprived than the other counterparts is something to do with their resource access. It is not with the way they care or they allocate the resources that they do have. So that is really an interesting point that I have raised.
But one thing I want to raise is just we need to have some level of confidence at this level that the quality of data, that agenda was a very serious agenda for us. And for that, we had an online tracking methodology application. So we have been tracking every data input. And we had office-based experts to follow the data capturing and the quality of the data from beginning to the end. So that was the procedure that we applied.
The PSNP program should retarget particularly newly married couples so that they can get at least some benefits. We have been seen over the past decade that newly established young people have been benefiting from the social protection. That is really devastating because there are many young people marrying early, and we haven't targeted even newly married mothers, newly married young boys who have married before the age of 18 but now already have a family, children. So we need to support them. Otherwise, just targeting only the older people or the elderly cannot support to support the communities to move out of the poverty.
Just to give you a response to that, for the impact study, it's cross-sectional research design. I was talking much into the mixed data collection and analysis, but you are right, it's always good to at least briefly mention the research design in future presentations. So that's a point taken. About assuring quality, it's been mentioned. The usual procedures are there to assure data quality, but in PSI, we also have a practice of audio audits, which would be a good lesson for other, research organizations doing especially surveys or qualitative interviews. So we will record interviews during survey or qualitative data collection, and there are teams who are listening to those audios, even to avoid leading questions. It's not about skipping sections or questions. Even we are forcing interviewers to just ask the exact questions which are in the survey tools.
On data quality in the Young Lives approach, It's partly that we've been doing the same interviews with these young people now from early childhood to early adulthood. So for 25 years we've been following them in a mixed method approach that has developed the kind of trust where we feel that they can tell us a lot about their lives. And of course the data is open access, anybody can download it and use it. Now the question of community outreach, as well Worker said, we do have attempt to give back to the communities and explain our findings to them, although we do keep the identity of the specific communities private and secret to anonymous. And we do try to, in this forum, I'll answer the two questions about the forum and outreach and the forum and practice. So there have been 173 presentations. They are all summarized in 32 newsletters and in 13 annual summaries. There is topics from all kinds of things, as Her Excellency the Minister in her speech she explained, whether you're talking about child protection or harmful traditional practices or health or education or whatnot. There are plenty of really important and interesting findings. So go use the resource. Use the resource, take it to the media, pass it on, make it entirely available. And so in conclusion, the question of policy and practice, there are plenty of presentations. The forum is open. Please present, come to the forum, encourage your friends and colleagues to present. We've had many NGOs. In fact, the Child Research and Practice Forum was started by local NGOs. Dr. Ananya is here, and Yehoalashet is here, and they can remind, and Marta is here, and initially it was an initiative of local NGOs that wanted to present their programs and practices, and over the years, out of 170, many of the presentations were on practice. So please go ahead, let us hope that this forum will continue and celebrate its 20th, 25th anniversary. Thank you.
Yeah. This will look like the presentation that I'm going to spell out. I will start why we know there is a gap, but what's the importance of talking the same thing again and again could be the issue at hand, or that comes to.
In conclusion, there is to be a balanced combination: prevention, protection, prosecution, and response system. I think. Due to that kind, I need trash.
Campus, the policies, social workers have no additional payments for their service.
Distinguished guests, invited conference participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly an honor and a privilege to close this one-day 15th year anniversary annual workshop of Children, Youth, Women, Research and Practice Forum. Today has been an enriching and insightful experience, offering us valuable opportunities to review and learn from the impactful speeches and research presentations. As you have witnessed, the workshop showcased a diverse range of studies, each providing deep analysis and critical insights. During the opening session, we had the privilege of hearing from distinguished speakers, Her Excellency Dr. Ergogie Tesfaye, emphasizing the vital role of research and evidence in shaping effective policies, strategies, programs, and interventions. Dr. Aboubakar highlighted the importance of valuing research and ensuring its effective transition into concrete actions. Similarly, Mr. Schadrack underscored the potential of this platform, emphasizing its critical role in shaping strategic practice and guiding future interventions. The comprehensive topics discussed in the morning session have provided valuable insights into key areas, including the status and priorities of Ethiopian women, the impact of conflict and climate change on children, child poverty and deprivation, and youth and economic empowerment. These presentations underscored the urgent need for focused attention and action to improve the lives of women, children, and youth. Furthermore, the afternoon session have offered profound insights into critical issues affecting children, youth, women, and vulnerable groups. The studies presented highlighted topics such as violence against children, women's empowerment, and vulnerability, offering a deeper understanding of pressing concerns like child sexual abuse, child marriage, and various forms of violence against children. In addition, discussions on gender and social issues address topics such as the gender wage gap, child care, women's reproductive health, emphasizing the need for policy and programmatic responses to bridge these inequalities. We also explored the challenges posed by online child sexual exploitation and abuse, the plight of female domestic workers, the inaccessibility of school for students with disabilities. Collectively, these presentations not only deepened our understanding of these pressing issues, but also reinforced the urgent need of focused attention and concrete actions to improve the lives of women, children, and youth, ensuring their inclusion and well-being in Ethiopia's socio-economic development. Therefore, it is essential to translate these insights into practical interventions, strengthen social protection mechanisms, and foster an enabling environment where women, children, and youth can thrive and reach their full potential. Dear participants, addressing these challenges requires a collective approach involving policymakers, researchers, civil societies, development partners, and other key stakeholders to design and implement effective and evidence-based solutions. Therefore, we will continue strengthening our collaboration with the stakeholders to ensure that these recommendations are translated into actionable initiatives that drive meaningful and sustainable change. In this regard, as we plan to produce the proceedings of today's workshop, I kindly request all presenters to submit a summary of their research not exceeding 8,000 words by the end of this month. As we conclude, I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to all presenters, speakers, facilitators, and participants for their active engagement and invaluable contributions. Your dedication to advancing research and practice in this field is truly inspiring. I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to Young Lives, UNICEF, UN Women, H.E Ethiopia for their financial and technical support. Additionally, I want to recognize the organizing team, Dr. Alula Pankhurst, Bruhaina Kullu, Dr. Fasil, Martha, Rawina, Salam, and Yodit, who worked with incredible team spirit to ensure the success of this workshop. Your efforts and collaboration have made this event possible, and I am deeply appreciative of your hard work and commitment. Finally, let us carry forward the insights gained today and continue our collective efforts to drive meaningful change. Thank you.